Well, it's about time. Let's begin. The article says that two Just Stop Oil activists were left grasping at thin air after a cyclist ripped their banner out of their hands as the eco-protesters blocked the road. The cyclist encountered a group of more than 10 Just Stop Oil activists in orange high-vis jackets as they usually are, holding up traffic using their distinctive banners. And after swerving around the first few protesters, the cyclist then rides in between the two activists, snatching their banner from behind. Extinction Rebellion on Monday, though, said that the government were given a choice to either agree to enter negotiations on our two collective demands for an immediate halt to all new coal, oil and gas exploration, and set up emergency citizens' assemblies to oversee a fair and people-led transition centred on reparative justice, or face the consequences. And after a deadline for response passed, the eco-founder of Extinction Rebellion, Claire Farrell, said the government had a week to respond to our demands, and they have failed to do so. Next, we will reach out to support organisations and start creating a plan for stepping up our campaigns across the ecosystem of tactics that includes everyone from first-time protesters to those willing to go to prison. Well, how do they like it then when the shoe is on the other foot and their day is actually ruined by someone else's actions? I mean, for too long now it seems like they're just holding the country to ransom. Who the hell do you think they are, saying the government has to agree to their demands? It's just absolutely ridiculous. At the end of the day, people shouldn't be forced to stop their journeys or take alternative routes or anything. As far as I'm aware, they're also breaking the 1980 Traffic Act by actually stopping traffic in the first place. So it seems a bit strange, doesn't it, that the police, rather than just arresting them or haul them off the street and make a way for people to drive down the roads, which is what they're mainly for, and instead seem to make them cups of tea, then I think that needs to be sorted out. And if I remember rightly, not so long ago, Suella Braverman even said that the police should be taking action against these people. Because let's face it, if people are doing a protest, then it should be a peaceful protest, not causing blockades and major disruption to people's lives. And if the government did cave into their threats, no doubt either them or another organisation would then do even more threats of their own, hoping the government would cave into their threats as well, and round we go. It's just absolutely crazy, and it's got to stop, and I'm glad the government hasn't negotiated with these people, because that will bring on nothing but trouble in my opinion. Britons who own an electric vehicle and cannot fuel up with a home charging point face spending an extra £1,000 every year to charge their car, even though the 2030 ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars is less than 7 years away. The charging cost represents a 10% increase from the year before, and an estimated 1/3 of drivers do not have access to off-street parking, which has been highlighted as putting drivers off investing in an electric. For those without access to off-street parking, charging an EV costs the drivers an additional £88 per year. To be honest, I wonder if that means £88 a month, because the charging prices are quite different. Anyway, more than those who can park at home. This amounts to £1,056 per year, with drivers seeing the costs rise from under £80 per month last year. The data from electrifying.com is based on an average 10,000 miles of a Volkswagen ID3, which costs 34 pence per kilowatt hours at peak times and just 10 pence per hour during the night. In comparison though, it would cost £103 a month to charge for 70 pence kilowatt an hour, a typical rate of a rapid charger found at a service station or supermarket. Ginny Beckley, founder and CEO of electrifying.com, said the country needed to improve by increasing the rate of EV ownership. She added, car buyers are embracing the electric revolution, with battery electric vehicles now boasting 16.2% of the market share. One of the key proposals from the electric car industry is for the government to cut the rate of VAT on public chargers. At present, charging at home attracts a VAT rate of 5%, whereas charging in public will see an additional 20% VAT added. The government has pledged billions of pounds to roll out more public charging options around the UK by 2030 to help cope with uptake. However, many experts are concerned about the viability of installing such a high number of chargers in a relatively short period of time. The thing is though, while 16.2% is obviously an increase on previous years, we do actually need more incentives to get an EV in the first place, don't we? Because whilst they admittedly do say it is cheaper to run, there are a lot more hurdles to go through. For example, you've got a smaller tank of fuel, which won't take you as far on a journey before need topping up again, which itself takes much longer to do so than just filling up a petrol car, for example. The cost of EVs as well isn't exactly cheap, is it, compared to a modern day petrol or diesel vehicle? I don't think it will really take off until an EV falls below the 20 grand mark. No matter how many restrictions the government wants to put on manufacturers saying that they must sell a certain percentage of EVs per month or be fined, which apparently they're rumoured to do so, which in itself brings us all a problem, doesn't it? Because no doubt if they do bring that in, then the manufacturers are going to increase the price of their normal petrol and diesel cars to outweigh any possible fine that they may get. What I think the government could actually do instead, though, is not only, of course, bring back EV grants for people to help us out a little bit, but also actually put more chargers in across the country, because that is my main worry, that I'd run out of charge on the A47 or some motorway or somewhere like that, where the good old AA will probably turn up with a diesel generator to charge my EV. How crazy is that, eh? So that is actually putting me off getting an EV in the first place. But whilst people on TV and YouTube channels say something like, "Oh, don't you know, I can drive 10 miles for about 5p now," or whatever it is they say, some ridiculous figure, what they're probably neglecting to mention is they're more than likely on an off-peak night tariff and charging up at home. So for the rest of us who are relying on public charging at sometimes ridiculous rates of 60 or 70p for a fast charger, because let's face it, whilst you could actually get a cheaper charger, you'd more than likely be waiting there a longer period of time, which I'm sure while we're out of the house we don't really want to do we? Unless we fancy watching an episode of Netflix or something on our cars while we charge, or wait for the girlfriend to finish shopping or something like that. Which, if anything, I could probably get through a whole series, but anyway. So I also think, as well as putting in more chargers, they could up the speed of the current chargers, either by software updates, if possible, or by replacing the parts needed. And as for the VAT, it just makes me wonder how long it will actually be before public charging will also have a similar rate of VAT to petrol. No doubt, of course, that will be near 2030 when the deadline approaches, or maybe actually they'll push it a few years back just to ease people in a bit. Well, of course, they charge our luxury car taxes as well, as rumoured to happen from 2025, which isn't going to be exactly cheap, is it? And I think they really do need to go back to the drawing board with this one. But I'm sure there's so much more things they could do if they wanted to incentivise us. Like, for example, putting off-peak rates in on public chargers, or maybe actually even give us cheaper rates than your home household tariff, because no doubt as companies, they might get electric cheaper than what we would if they're using more of it. They might get some sort of special rate, and they could pass that on to us, couldn't they? But until that day comes where they do something drastically to incentivise us, let me tell you this, I'll be keeping my Citroen C3 for very much longer, which obviously runs on petrol. The emergency phone system alert, remember that, eh? Caused more chaos yesterday when it went off again in the early hours. Some users were woken up in a panic, while others got a fright on their Monday morning commute. And it came despite government assurances that the test would only sound on 3 PM on Sunday. But Danny Wiserwicki, I pronounced that right, of Slough, Berkshire, was woken up by the alert at 2:20 AM. Can you imagine that? He said, "It scared the life out of myself and my wife as we were asleep and wondered what the hell was going on." It was the same alert as I had on Sunday. Plumber Mark Peters, who is 54 of Derby, got the alert at 8 AM. He said, "It doesn't bode well if it's supposed to be keeping us safe and alert." Sources suggested the problem was caused by mobile phone masts continuing to broadcast the message after the end of the test. The Cabinet Office, though, said it was reviewing the results of the UK-wide test after a very small proportion of mobiles did not get Sunday's alert. Well, to be honest, I did actually get the alert, and I personally think it was a little bit laughable, because when you clicked on it, it took you to the notifications page or section where it was very easy to just turn off, which I promptly did, of course, because I don't really want that coming through my mobile phone again. And at the end of the day, if some sort of emergency did actually happen, then to be honest, I'm sure we could get the news quicker and more reliable off places like YouTube and other news organisations, rather than waiting for the government's alert, which who knows how long would actually take to show up, especially if it ended up alerting some people at 2 AM again the following day, or commute, or whatever. I mean, to be honest, the pee up in a brewery comes to mind about all this, doesn't it? And if there is an actual emergency and it did arrive at that time, I'm pretty sure we'd actually already know about it by then. And thinking about it, I don't really see the point in this alert system altogether. I mean, we didn't really need it before, did we? So how come we suddenly need it now? And are they going to plan further tests because of the mess-ups they had with some people actually not getting the alert, and obviously these people getting it twice? No doubt, of course, they're probably just waiting for some sort of emergency to happen so that they can actually send something out to the public. And to be honest, I think in 2024, if the Labour Party get in, that's going to be a pretty bad emergency for us all, isn't it? So no doubt they'll probably use it then. But going back to cars, in this video a whopping 94% of people actually don't want these. But will the government listen? Anyway, subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.